A week after the first ever summit-level Quad meeting, there's another strategic meeting that is now in the offing. The US Defence Secretary, General Lloyd Austin, as you know, will be in India on the 19th and 20th of March as part of his first ever overseas visit. Now, as is tradition, there is an officious sounding press release from the Ministry of Defence that talks about Austin meeting Rajnath Singh to discuss deepening of US-India major defence partnership and advancing cooperation between our countries for a free, prosperous and open Indo-Pacific and Western Indian Ocean region. That is a flowery way of saying we'll be talking China and CAATSA, the two C's that are redefining India's relationship with the United States of America. Let's start with China first. It's the first C on the talking table. As you know, there's a great game on in the oceans of the world. China is the lone shark, prowling the seas, buying up or snatching away everything in sight by fair or unfair means to achieve its stated aim, which is becoming the greatest maritime power in the world. And it is getting there. 2/3 of the world's 50 major ports are either owned or have received some Chinese investment or the other. These are Trojan ports. Like the Greeks used the Trojan horse to first enter and then conquer Troy, Beijing first sends in its investments and then its military to control not just governments in these port countries, but also sea lanes by which their trade and oil passes. Crude oil, that is. Okay, so Beijing is safeguarding its own interests. Why should India be worried? Take a look at where China is aggressively expanding its maritime footprint. Right in India's backyard, the Indian Ocean region. It has controlling stakes in the Hambantota port, which is in Sri Lanka. It owns the Gwadar port in Pakistan, has a military agreement with Seychelles to use its ports, and has invested in Bangladesh's Chittagong port as well. The list is long, and to cut a long story short, this is China's game plan of encircling India with its string of pearls and choking it in its own backyard. China now has the world's largest navy and has used that muscle to take control of the South China Sea. Its plans for the Indian Ocean are fairly clear as well. Given India's lack of maritime resources, this is the perfect scenario for an enemy's enemy being a friend to kick in. The United States of America is dealing with its own China migraine in the Pacific Ocean and elsewhere. The two countries have sparred over everything from trade to coronavirus. But nowhere do the US and Chinese military come as close to each other than they do in the South China Sea. Beijing claims South China Sea as its maritime empire. It is one of the busiest shipping routes in the world. 30% of the world's crude oil passes from this waterway. The US has played a key role in its security since World War II. China has challenged that. Washington fears that at some point of time, China might deny the US Navy access to these waters. They have been regularly sending in their aircraft carriers and warships for freedom of navigation operations, something that has led to some pretty tense encounters with the Chinese Navy in the South China Sea. So the troubled waters of the Indo-Pacific are the new theatre of collaboration between India and the US to counter China. And that is going to be top of the agenda when Lloyd Austin meets India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. And if anyone had any doubts, it may be instructive to listen to what Austin had said right ahead of this trip. But China is not the only C on the talking table. There is also going to be an awkward conversation around CAATSA. What is CAATSA? First things first, it is an acronym for the US's Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. Simply put, if any country buys any defense platform or data processing or petroleum from Russia, it will have to face sanctions from America. This act came in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea and Moscow's alleged meddling in the 2016 US elections. Now, despite US pressure, India has gone right ahead and purchased 5 S-400 Triumph air defense systems from Moscow at a cost of $5.5 billion. Turkey and China are already facing sanctions by the US for a similar purchase. The question is, will India be next? That is going to be an uncomfortable conversation between Secretary Austin and Rajnath Singh as India is seeking a waiver. And the waiver is likely to come as the Quad formalizes and India and US look to collaborate with each other to counter China. Allies don't sanction allies. But as they say, there are no free lunches in this world. To a large extent, Washington's CAATSA tantrum stems from the fact that Delhi rejected two American systems, Patriot and THAAD, to choose the Russian S-400 instead. So there will be an appeasement or trade-off, call it what you will. India will commit to buying more weapons from the US, adding to the $18 billion that we have already spent in the last 20 years on Made in America arms. Ahead of General Austin's visit, India has indicated it will buy the very expensive Reaper or Predator armed UAVs from the US, 30 of them for $3 billion for the three services. The announcement, we are being told, could come during this visit itself. That is not all. Delhi has also kicked off the process of buying 6 more long-range Poseidon 8I aircraft from the US for the Navy. Then there is the $20 billion contract for 114 medium multi-role combat aircraft for the Indian Air Force that is also in the pipeline. The US undoubtedly will leverage CAATSA for that as well. Conveniently, CAATSA has a clause that says if countries lessen their dependence on Russia and increase their cooperation with the US over a period of time, they qualify for a waiver. The perfect alibi to hand India one. India's days of non-alignment are long gone. In the New World Order, strategic relationships are formed on the need to protect your own interests. And like in all relationships, there is some give and some take.